Why, hello there, Nice Tower here. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I greatly appreciate it. And most importantly, I hope you're having a good day. And maybe you enjoy this and have a little bit better day. Or whether you enjoy this or not, just have a better day even. Why not, right? What are we looking at here? We're looking at the AZUSA. I call them AZUSA, but it's AZUSA. They're out of Arizona, so I'm sure that's what it is. Bladeworks Helldorado. Pretty distinctive, pretty dramatic blade and just knife, right? I do have a full review on this. This is the summary, sort of updated thoughts and everything like that, and shorter content for those who don't want to see the longer stuff. But if you do, the full review link will be down in the description if you care to check it out and see all the specs and all that stuff. But we're keeping it a little bit shorter here today, just talking about the knife and my future thoughts, considering I've had more time with it, and I like it. This is a really good knife. It's a really cool knife. It's very dramatic. It's got a lot going for it, and there's one big selling point that I will get to in a minute, but I'm gonna force you to stick around for that because there's no timestamps on these summaries. They're shorter. Nah, you can jump forward a little bit and probably find it, but either way. Clip point, drop point sort of style blade here. Pretty high tip with the belly up front, but it's very accessible, very usable, sort of a gigantic. I mean, it's not the harpoon and the poon on this side, but if you really look at it, it's kind of harpoonish. The whole actual blade is. For the blade shape, it is reasonably thin behind the edge. Nice. Doesn't feel like it gets too thick too fast. The plunge grind is way up here, so you have like infinite life on this thing. Big old front choil. You do have stop pins that are connected to the blade up here, so you shouldn't have any issues with sharpening. I mean, ever. You could probably take this thing pretty far. There is a bit of an exaggerated jimping up here. Not necessarily the most comfortable, maybe if you're wearing gloves. However, right back here where they sort of start going smaller, actually pretty good to interface with. Pretty decent to interface with. It's not the most grippy, but it is a little bit, and it definitely offers some texture. And honestly, I've noticed that the way the blade sort of rises from the handle, that little crux there really offers a good position to sort of lock yourself in at, even no matter where you're holding onto it. It just sort of falls at the back end of your finger, and it just works. So I can appreciate the way they've done that. It does have bearings in the pivot. Pretty small bearings, however, the action is quite good. Light shake shot. I do have a tendency not to let it drop to my finger because while this whole thing is basically access to the lock bar, and you can get it almost completely from the side, as you can see, if you're in the wrong spot, if you don't go up a little too high, sometimes it can go for your side of my finger. I can get it to drop to my nail, but I have a tendency to just do this. Because I like experiencing the drop on this thing, and it's quite nice. And also, it allows me to really focus on the sound of the detent, which is kind of like a sort of a rounded funk. It's got a pretty darn good detent on it. Very poppy. Of course, I just slipped off that right as I was about to talk about the thumb studs. They are rounded. You can slip off of them, but there is some texture here, and honestly, they work really well. The position's great. I, of course, going to speak about something, have to screw it up, but that's par for the course. I think that's par for the course as soon as you put someone on camera and tell them to talk about something. You immediately just completely ruin that, that aspect and selling point. It works. It works for the reverse flick. Great stuff there. The handle is micarta, pretty thick micarta. Not top tier Kaiser micarta. Kaiser Vosti micarta, but it's good mid tier micarta. Nice texture, cloth feel, contouring. And the reason I bring up Megaron subconsciously is that Megaron actually makes these for AZUSA. This is a Megaron made knife. And yeah, if you know anything about Megaron, you can sort of feel some of their hallmarks in it. Liner lock. G10 backspacer, and instead of just keeping it flush, they sort of chamfered the G10, so you got a little bit of like dimensionality. Nice little touch there. Titanium pocket clip. Unfortunately, it is not left-handed. Maybe if these things continue to be popular, they'll do a left-handed run, but until then, you can't swap the clip. Sorry, left-handed people. I know this is kind of unfortunate because this is a very unique design, and I'd certainly like to have it if I were even if I was left-handed. But it's also not like the worst thing left-handed. Like, that's not terrible. The clip is so low profile that it's actually pretty darn comfortable. So maybe you could come up with something, or maybe you could make do with it as it is. Honestly, it's pretty good. The way they did the clip and everything just kind of works. Lanyard hole for those who care. T8 construction all the way around, and I have to glaze it up. I have to do it. I have to say it. As you can see, the blade is basically sterile, almost completely. I like seeing that. It always lends to a more refined, premium-looking product, in my opinion. The logo here, or here, or here, or in here, or even if they just put, like, the logo, like, sometimes Riot puts their logo right there, it just looks better when the blade's clean. It does. Gonna say it every time, a million times. It's gonna be probably in, like, half my videos, but gonna keep saying it, because that's the way I feel. I talked about lock bar access, how you have basically this entire thing as the lock bar, and the access is actually pretty good. Slight diagonal, like in certain spots, but you can get it completely from the side, like right here, so no problem whatsoever. Good action. Good centering, no play. And now, finally, what is the big selling point on this that I mentioned earlier? That is the blade steel. Yes, that says Vanax, as in Vanax Super Clean, as in the premium steel that, you know, normally costs, well, not costs, but it does. It tends to cost more than M390 or S90V, and you tend to not usually be able to find Vanax on anything under about $350 usually. What does this knife cost? Well, this is done up more like a budget sort of style Megaron, because this knife costs $100. Yes, let that sink in for a minute. $100 for Vanax blade steel. There is no other knife out there that I'm aware of that offers that. In fact, most people probably would never get an opportunity to try Vanax if they never get into those premium tier knives. You're just not going to be able to find it. Except for here. Which, aside from its pretty wicked styling, is pretty darn awesome. Let's be honest. Vanax blade steel on a knife of this price point is spectacular. And, based on my understanding of Vanax, I am no metallurgist, so correct me if I'm wrong, but Vanax is a steel that, from what I've read, is... It basically, you can't heat treat it over 61, 62 HRC. Like, at all. So the optimal range for this thing to get it into really good specs is like that 60 to 62, with 61 sort of being the really sweet spot. So it should be easier for companies to heat treat than, say, the M390, which can be particular and definitely want to go higher. I can't speak to exactly how well this is heat treated. Maybe someday I'll get this thing, I'll send it out and have it tested, because it would be kind of relevant to see on this particular knife. But it should, on average, like kind of how S90V is better, a little bit lower than M390 is, so you get a little more consistency. It should be kind of in that territory where it's not as hard to get a good treat on the, assuming they're following the right protocols and all that other stuff. But basically, the hardness is well within the range of what I could expect them to, or hope they're getting, right? Reasonably. So, even decently heat-treated Vanax at this price point, let's be honest, $100 for Vanax is... It's arguably a bigger selling point than the dramatic lines on the knife, which is pretty crazy, isn't it? Now, I will say that these were originally a pre-order. There is a second pre-order. I think it might actually still be even open as of recording this. I literally just picked this knife up and said, oh, I'm doing this one today, so I didn't even look. But I think on the AZUSA website, which I will link down below, they have a few models, all made by Megaron for them. But I think it might still be open for pre-order. The second round, are doing a second round. You've got a couple options. You've got I think the second round just consists of this gray PVD and a satin. There may be a black variant. I'm not sure if that's still even in stock or anything like that. But yeah, I kind of hope they continue making these and maybe go for even a third round. Maybe put some left-handed carry options on there. Or do a left-handed version, because this is a really cool knife and it is pretty excellently priced, honestly. I mean, $100, yeah, it's a lot for a knife if you're not into buying premium crazy knives and you're not deranged like myself. But Vanax, just the opportunity to check out Vanax at this price point is kind of worth it in itself for me. So, yeah. Super comfortable, surprisingly so, in fact. Very recommendable. I've only kind of appreciated some of the small little points of this knife as it's continued to occasionally end up in my pocket in the rotation sort of thing. It's executed really well. Great stuff, worth checking out. That'll be all from me and the Helldorado here. Thank you very much for watching. Consider just clicking on another video, though I'm sure they've popped up or something like that. Other than that, I hope to see you later. Have a great day.